What if I told you that a single election didn't just change a country, but actually redrew the entire strategic map of South Asia? Well, that's exactly what we're talking about today. This isn't just politics, it's a geopolitical earthquake, and the epicenter is right in Dhaka.
So, picture this. It's February 12, 2026. After 15 long years under Sheikh Hasina and the Awami League, the ballot boxes have delivered a verdict that's nothing short of a shockwave. Literally overnight, the entire political reality for 170 million people in Bangladesh was turned completely on its head.
But this is way bigger than just a domestic power shift. We're talking about shockwaves that have put a massive 4,000-kilometer-long border on high alert. So how did one election become a full-blown crisis for one regional superpower and a golden opportunity for two others? Stay till the end because some shocking evidence I'm going to reveal in this explainer. Let's get back to it.
To really get your head around just how huge this change is, you've got to look at the numbers. Because this wasn't some razor-thin victory, you know? It was a political tsunami that just washed the entire old guard away in a single night.
Here's the number that says it all. 212. That's the number of parliamentary seats the opposition, the Bangladesh Nationalist Party, or BNP, just snapped up. Now, in a 300-seat parliament, that isn't just a win. That's absolute total dominance.
I mean, just look at this. The scale is absolutely staggering. The BNP got their 212 seats, sure, but then their allies, Jamaat-e-Islami, grabbed another 77. Put them together, and you've got a supermajority that can basically rewrite the rulebook for the country. The Awami League, they weren't just defeated. They were, for all intents and purposes, erased from the map.
But, and this is crucial, the election was only half the story. See, at the same time, Bangladeshis were also voting on something called the July National Charter. And guess what? The result here was just as decisive. A whopping 68% voted yes for a massive, fundamental overhaul of the system.
So what is this charter exactly? Well, think of it as an 84-point constitutional reset button. It's bringing in stuff like a 2-term limit for prime ministers, making the courts more independent, and building in protections against the kind of authoritarianism that many felt defined the last decade and a half. So here's the bottom line. People didn't just vote for a new party. They voted for an entirely new game. A complete break from the Hasina model. And right at the heart of this entire political hurricane, there is one man. If you want to understand the new Bangladesh, you have to understand the guy who orchestrated this whole thing from 5,000 miles away. A figure many people call the Dark Prince, Tariq Rahman.
For almost 20 years, Tariq Rahman was like a ghost in the machine, running his party through video calls while living in exile in London. And how people see him? Well, it's a night and day difference. His enemies see a fugitive, a symbol of corruption. But to his millions of followers, he's the Desh Nayak, the nation's leader, the one who's come back to save democracy.
And you can see the massive shift coming in his very first words after the win. Our foreign policy will be Bangladesh first. Now, that might sound like a pretty standard political slogan, but believe me, in this context, it's a bombshell. It's a direct challenge to the old government's very pro-India stance. This is a declaration of a new, assertive, and nationalist foreign policy.
Which, of course, brings us to the country that's feeling the heat from this election the most, India. For over a decade, New Delhi had what they called a golden era with Dhaka. Well, that era just came to a screeching halt, and it's been replaced by a strategic headache of frankly epic proportions.
All of a sudden, India is staring down some seriously tough problems. Number one, the diplomatic nightmare over the former Prime Minister, Sheikh Hasina, who's now in India. The new government in Dhaka is already making noise about wanting her extradited. Number two, all those critical transit deals that India relies on to supply its northeastern states, they're now up for review. And number three, the security of its most vulnerable strategic point. The Siliguri Corridor. You've probably heard it called the chicken's neck. It's this tiny, incredibly fragile 22-kilometer-wide sliver of land. And it's the only thing connecting mainland India to its 7 northeastern states. With a less friendly Bangladesh on its border, this corridor just went from being a concern to a full-blown strategic vulnerability.
So this is the impossible choice facing India's leaders right now. It's a classic rock-and-a-hard-place situation. Do you protect Sheikh Hasina, a lifelong ally, and in doing so infuriate the brand-new government of your most important neighbor? Or do you hand her over and look weak and unreliable to the rest of the world? There are absolutely no easy answers here. Now, while India is scrambling to figure out what to do, Two other major players are looking at this whole situation and seeing nothing but opportunity. For China and Pakistan, this election result is basically a green light to push their own agendas in the Bay of Bengal.
And they are not wasting any time. For Pakistan, we're already seeing moves to set up direct sea links and make travel easier. Even more, those old talks about defense deals, maybe even selling fighter jets, are suddenly back on the table. But for China, oh, the prize is so much bigger. Beijing is now going all in on its Teesta River project, a plan that India has blocked for years. If that gets approved, China gets a massive strategic and water resource footprint just miles from India's vulnerable Chicken's Neck.
Okay, so all of this high-level geopolitical chess has very real, very tangible consequences right down on the ground. That 4,000-kilometer border between India and Bangladesh, which used to be pretty quiet and cooperative, has now become one of the most tense and closely watched frontiers on the planet.
And it's amazing how fast this all went down. You had the big protests back in 2024 that kind of set the stage, then boom, the BNP landslide, and now here we are with the entire border on high alert. The speed of it all has caught a lot of folks in security completely off guard. So, why the high alert? Well, Indian forces are bracing for a few specific things. 1, a possible wave of refugees if things get messy. 2, the fear that old insurgent groups could see this as a chance to make a comeback. And 3, a general spike in smuggling and illegal crossings while the new government gets its act together. And the response? We're talking intensified drone surveillance and night curfews all along that border. So, if you take away just one thing from all of this, let it be this. The old rules are out the window. The comfortable, predictable status quo that has defined South Asia for more than a decade was shattered by this one election. Bangladesh isn't a junior partner anymore. It's an emerging player that is demanding to be taken seriously. For India, this really means the old game is over. They have to throw out the old playbook of strategic dominance and start writing a new one called diplomatic recalibration. It's going to take more talking, more negotiating, and just accepting that their neighbor now has a very strong mind of its own. And that leaves us with the big final question, doesn't it? Is India's worry a totally legitimate response to a real security threat? Or is it just the uncomfortable growing pains of a regional power struggling to accept the natural evolution of a proud neighbor that's finally standing up for its own interests? The answer to that is going to shape the future of this entire region. Make sure you subscribe to this channel for the latest updates and check out the next video coming up on your screen.